first few months, I guess I'm approaching 4 months as president, I joked that I wish I could have had a little bit more runway to get into some of the more controversial votes that we were going to have, but I'm glad I'd already been on the board, and we'd gone through the Fair Park First contract, and we had some other the big bond program, and had some turnover on the board, so I was able to at least bring that experience to being president. And Fair Park was a huge initiative. That was a Herculean effort, years in the making, and I feel very optimistic about where we are now, a year in with Fair Park First, and obviously Spectra making news every week, bringing big acts. The success of the Winter Classic on New Year's Day, second largest.
So BTS is coming too.
BTS, which I did not know until about 6 months ago before I saw them on Saturday Night Live. I thought BTS stood for behind the scenes. So that was a huge get. And Spectra is doing some great things. And Fair Park First is doing great things. They've had over 120 community meetings as they're working on the master plan, putting the park back in Fair Park. That was critical to the park board when we were negotiating that contract, that it had to have green space. That was the number one component that the neighborhoods were asking for, and that's what they deserved. So we need to make sure that we get this right, and that we have a lot of green space, that it accommodates the resident institutions, large and small, but also benefits the neighborhood and helps not only equitable economic development, but we really want to see the area surrounding Fair Park South Dallas flourish. And we believe that having a good operator of the 277 acres of Fair Park was really catalytic to that. So other park initiatives we have on the horizon, connectiveness between our trails is really critical, because we have all these great trails, but they sometimes don't go anywhere, except to the end of that trail. We want them to connect. So formerly known as the Circuit Trail Conservancy is now the Loop, and they have an excellent board, and that's a private partnership that we have, and really want to help get that connectivity between our trails, because ultimately we want to have a completely circuitous trail system that also connects to trails in Irving and Richardson, so that it's not only a recreational amenity, but also a modality of transportation, because we want to get more cars off the road, help people walk or use bikes to get to and from where they need to go. No scooters allowed on our trails, but that's really critical, and it's going to be an improved amenity in the urban core, but also as our trails extend to the suburbs. Then our deck parks, that is the two key words of the last 10 years. We've seen the success of Clyde Warren in its first phase. Now phase 2 is in its beginning stages. It's beginning design and construction. It's been approved through the city processes. Now they're going to be raising money to build their 3-story pavilion, but also there's going to be a turf. The western expansion will have actually turf, and it'll be programmed all year round. There will be an ice rink, for example, in the winter, farmers markets in the summer, an expanded children's playground, expanded dog park, water features. So we think that's going to really enhance that urban uptown and downtown core. It's already the melting pot of our city. We know that. I think they had their 3 millionth visitor there a few months ago. 1,300 free programs a year. It has been a game changer, transformative to Dallas. So that's going to be great. Speaking of deck parks, Southern Gateway, which is currently being tunneled right now by TxDOT. That's right in front of the zoo, so we apologize to all those travelers.
Y'all going to show me, because I drive through there all the time, and I cannot visualize what that's going to look like. So I'm going to need some sort of...
So there's so the public financing part has already been done. That's building, they call it the kitty litter box, that will be the tunnel, and then there's a private fundraising effort for what will be the park, similar to Clyde Warren as well. And so there's a private fundraising effort, the Southern Gateway Public Green Space Foundation. And then it's really at the Dallas Zoo's front door. Mm-hmm. The zoo is about to be undergoing a capital campaign for its new master plan. And so it's really going to be the front door to the new and improved Dallas Zoo, which is going to be spectacular. It already is great, but we think adding more green space to its entryway and more parking in the form of likely a garage will serve both purposes well, and the zoo has interest in programming some of that park, so that's exciting. I'm really, speaking of master plans, the Glendale Park master plan in District 3, kind of on the edge of District 4, but I think will be really transformative. We've seen the success with the new South Oak Cliff High School opening, a lot of the alumni supporting that, and then 4 Oak Cliff, all of Taylor Toynes, my park board members,
and
colleagues.
One of our clients.
Yes, he is.
So
and so I love what Taylor is doing and all the support that he has. But I think all the work they put into that master plan and the ideas for $25 million in improvements to just that park and that acreage would be transformative and bring the right kind of development and the right kind of needs to that park that really have been overlooked. And so those are some of the really big projects that I'm looking forward to. We've got to support our neighborhood parks as well. We put in $5 million in match funds in the bond program in 2017. And so we want to encourage our neighborhood, our friends groups to come to us and say, look, we can raise $10,000, we can raise $40,000 and come to the board and say, we'd like to match that and double our money. We just did that for Friends of Garrett Park, and they'd raised $120,000 for new playgrounds, and we were able to match that. So we want to empower our friends groups and our neighborhood park advocates, because that's where a lot of people go. I mean, we love our big signature parks, but if we don't support our neighborhood parks, that's what we have a lot more of, 400 parks in the system. So we got to support those too. That was a very long answer, and I'm really sorry. But can you tell I'm passionate about parks?
If you're not excited about parks after listening to this episode, you don't have a pulse.
It's 40 degrees, and I think I'm going to go run through the park.
Right?
To Lake Cliff. As soon as
Lake Cliff
done.
and Founders and Kid Springs is getting some wonderful enhancements in Japanese gardens.
Absolutely.
So those are we really need to look at parks as not just a nice to have, a quality of life piece, but as infrastructure and as economic development, as generators of communities, because we know historically parks have always been gathering places, and they need to be. We need to get back outside. It'll help our waistlines, it'll help our pocketbooks. We need to get not only our children and our families outside, but to have gathering places. That's what Garrett Park is for Munger Place Church, and it's been a great amenity to that neighborhood that's extremely diverse of all types, economic, socioeconomic, religious, ethnic, and they can really be our add to that mosaic of our society. We've seen that at Flagpole Hill, certainly, and the North Haven Trail we've seen as a huge generator of recreation, where the North Dallas didn't have that before, and so we really think that hopefully with our friends groups that we can be that partner to them.
Deconstructing Dallas, Ryan Trimble, Sean Williams. We're going to take a quick break. Be right back with Dallas Park Board President Calvert Collins Bratton. Stick with us.
Strong communities allow its people to shape what it looks like. Communities tend to work side by side with their neighbors to make sure that everyone, no matter what their background, has the opportunity to learn, grow, and thrive. Without the proper resources, communities begin to fall behind and are not connected to others around them. At the Oak Cliff YMCA, we are the solution to that problem. We are committed to strengthening communities through healthy living, youth development, and social responsibility. A healthier and stronger community now awaits you at the Oak Cliff YMCA. Stop by 6701 Southampton Road, take a tour, and ask how you can make an impact in our community.
welcome back. This is Deconstructing Dallas. Sean Williams, Ryan Trimble. We are with Dallas Park Board President Calvert Collins Bratton. One of the reasons we wanted to come talk to you is about Reverchon.
What?
There's a big deal going on around town, and I didn't know if anybody heard of it. I thought we were going to be breaking news here.
Is that park over off of Oak Lawn?
Well, let's just get in the car. We can just all drive.
Okay. Field trip.
And so I know that there's been a lot of talk. There's been a lot of social media. I was at the meeting when you all had, or not when you all, but when the city council had it. I believe you spoke at the meeting. So I know you're supportive of the plan for Reverchon. So maybe you can tell our listeners a little bit about what has been proposed, what has been passed, and why you're supportive.
So the board. Both, but there were two RFPs, a first and a second. The first was both were passed by Park Board 11-2, so overwhelmingly. And the first group also was a for-profit group, not local, and they were minor league baseball operators as well. But they couldn't raise the money that was needed, so the contract became null. That was in 2018. So there was interest. The park department heard there was interest in another group, maybe bringing that back up as an option. And so because the department had asked the board 3 years ago if there was interest in supporting a privatization of the ballpark, and that's a critical point of clarification. It's only privatizing the operations of the ballpark, not the park. It's a 40-acre park in the center of Dallas. It's classified as a community park because of its acreage. It's sizable, one of our larger parks in the system. And it's in the urban core. It doesn't have much residential adjacency. It's really surrounded more by business and roadway. And it is a beautiful, dense, old park, 100 years old. And the ballpark is, I think it was almost 105 years old. We had done as good of a job as we could. It had fallen into kind of disrepair and underutilization. And so that's why the department explored the private operations of the ballpark. So, fast forward, two groups come forward. The second group passes. Both groups passed. And then we got to briefings in the fall. And the board really felt like it was in the best interest of the park and the ballpark's long-term future to have a different private operator for the ballpark, and with minimal change to the footprint, still keeping the legacy of baseball, but understanding that there was interest in both RFPs. There was interest in multiple sports. In fact, the first RFP had room for a concert venue, music festivals, and mixed martial arts. So we could have had a Reverchon octagon.
So this thing right there.
So anyway, that passed, and then the second RFP was issued because we had heard that there was interest maybe in additional sports. So right now in the department, we don't have any turf fields, and that means that you can't utilize playing on that field for parts of the year because the grass has to be replanted, watered, irrigate, all that. And so this would be a real amenity to be able to have a turf field. So a group called Reverchon Park Sports and Entertainment, put together by Mavericks GM Donnie Nelson, came forward. They liked the location, Reverchon in particular. He wanted to do something in the city of Dallas, his hometown, wanted to do something that people could walk to, because they've seen that with Victory Park. A lot of people are using the Katy Trail to get to Victory now. And so having a venue that people could really walk to was a real seller to them. So they wanted to put the Dallas Eagles, which was the historic baseball team, back in the park. And so we're going to raise $15 million of private money to build a new ball field. And in keeping with the historic look, that WPA stone, keeping with that look, it's similar to what Dallas Baptist's stadium looks like. And so have up to 3,500 seats. Again, up to is the key. There, that would likely, a lot of games, that's not all going to be full, but on about the same footprint. And then the money, what's important is the revenue share generated from this, the private operations of it would go back into a beautification fund for just that park, not the whole city, but just that park. So literally the money generated stays in that park. So that means playground enhancements, dog waste stations, water fountains, additional improvements for that park. So, and then Clayton Kershaw's